What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week we have a special episode to bring you featuring two of our friends from the GMGC, another Magic the Gathering YouTube channel from Chicago. You should look them up if you haven't checked them out yet. I'll leave a link to their channel in the description of this video. First up this week we have Justin playing his ever-faithful Yuriko the Tiger Shadow deck. Like always, he's looking to get in quick with Yuriko and the rest of his ninja to reveal those sweet high CMC cards off the top of his library for a win. Next we have Edward playing mono blue vehicles with Cosima, God of the Voyage, or more importantly, the Omenkeel. This deck looks to take advantage of his vehicles and the Omenkeel's ability to exile cards and take other players' lands. Next we have Kevin, aka the GMGC, playing his Octavia Living Thesis deck. With this deck, he's looking to sling them blue spells and make some 8/8 strong boys to turn sideways and crush his opponents. Lastly, we have Fog playing his Boros commander pair of Bruse Tarl and Livio Oathsworn Sentinel. This deck is fairly simple, but at the same time has a lot going on. At its core, it's a changeling tribal deck with some useful ally abilities sprinkled in, but the main goal is to take everybody out with commander damage using Bruse Tarl. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Edward plays an island and passes. Kevin also plays an island, taps 1 to play Portent. Fog draws and plays a plains and passes to Justin. Justin plays a Temple of Deceit, scries 1, and passes. Edward plays an island and taps 2 to cast the Omenkeel side of his commander. Kevin plays an Isolated Watchtower that taps 2 for a Wharf Infiltrator and passes. Fog plays another plains that taps 2 for an Ondu Cleric, gaining 1 life. Justin draws, plays a Swamp, that taps 2 for an Invisible Stalker. Edward plays another island that taps 2 for a Steel Overseer. He then plays a discounted Emery Lurker of the Loch, then uses her to crew the Omenkeel and swings it at Justin for 3. He then exiles Justin's top 3 cards. Kevin plays another island, then taps 2 for a Looter Ilcore and swings the Wharf Infiltrator at Fog for 1 and passes. Fog draws, plays a Spectator Seeding, and taps 1 red for Faithless Looting. Justin plays another Swamp for turn, then swings the Stalker at Edward before ninjutsuing in Yuriko. After damage, he reveals an island off the top and passes. Edward taps 2 to play a Riddlesmith, then taps 2 to cast Funeral Longbow, drawing and discarding from the Riddlesmith. He then puts a counter on the Omenkeel with the Overseer and crews it with Emery before swinging it at Fog for 4, who blocks with his Cleric. Kevin draws, then casts Shadow Rift on his Infiltrator, giving him Shadow and drawing a card. He then goes to combat and swings 1 creature piece at Justin and 1 at Edward. Fog untaps, draws, then plays a Mountain, and taps out to cast his commander Bruse Tarl and passes. Justin draws for turn, plays a Sunken Hollow, then taps 4 to cast Rags in passing. Edward draws and taps 4 to cast his Arcbound Crusher. He then uses the Crusher to crew the Omenkeel and swings it at Kevin for 4. Kevin plays a Halimur Depths, looking at his top 3, then activates his Watchtower, hitting another island. Fog plays a Rogue's Passage for turn, then taps 2 to cast Talisman of Conviction. He then taps another 1 to cast O Naginata before equipping it to Bruse Tarl. He then targets Bruse with his owner trigger, giving him Double Strike and Lifelink before swinging it at Kevin for 12. Justin plays an island for turn, casts his Invisible Stalker, then swings Yuriko at Kevin, and he reveals Far Away off the top, dealing 5 to us all. Edward draws for turn, then plays an island. He then taps 4 to cast a Surge Spanner, which is then swords immediately by Fog. Edward then, understandably, sends the Omenkeel Fog for 6, and then exiles his top 6 cards. Second main, Edward taps 2 to cast a Smuggler's Copter and passes. Kevin casts Frantic Search, then untaps and taps 4 to cast Temporal Fissure, bouncing Bruse back to Fog's hand and also Yuriko back to Justin's hand. Fog plays an Arid Mess for turn, Kraken to get an untapped Sacred Foundry. He then taps 4 to cast a regular Cohorts, getting a Changeling token, and taps another 2 to cast his other commander, Livio. Justin draws and goes to combat, swinging the Stalker at Edward before ninjutsuing in a Throat Slitter, killing Edward's Crusher. He then taps 2 to recast the Invisible Stalker. Edward plays Fog's Plains as his land for turn, then taps 2 to cast an Ethereum Sculptor. He then uses the Sculptor to crew the Copter, swinging at Justin, who declares no blocks, and then he exiles the top 3 cards of his library. Kevin untaps and casts Cloak of Feathers on Livio, giving him flying in order to draw a card. He then taps 4 more to cast God Eternal Kefnet. Fog untaps, draws for a turn, and then taps 4 to recast Bruse Tarl and puts his ETB trigger on his token, swinging to Justin for 4 before passing. Justin draws and plays a tap Beseju, then swings 1 creature piece at both Edward and Fog. After no blocks are declared, he ninjutsus in Yuriko, getting 2 damage triggers, which deals 9 damage to the table. He then recasts his Stalker again and passes. Edward plays an island for turn and passes. Kevin taps 1 island to play a copy of his top card because of Kefnet, which is Peak. He then taps 1 more to cast Peak, before tapping another island to cast Siren Storm Tamer, and then casting his commander, Octavia. At the end of his turn, Fog taps 2 to put an Aegis counter on his cohorts. Fog draws for turn and plays a Needle Lurge Pathway. He then taps 2 to put an Aegis counter on Bruse, and then another 2 to put an Aegis counter on Livio himself. He then swings Bruse at Edward, dealing 6 commander damage. Justin draws for turn and goes to combat, swinging the Stalker at Edward and Yuriko at Kevin. After no blocks are declared, he ninjutsus in Ink Eyes, giving him 2 damage triggers. He then does 6 damage to the table, taking Kevin out. Edward plays Fog's Clifftop Retreat for turn, taps 7 to cast Spine of Ishal, targeting Ink Eyes, who Justin regenerates. He then casts Thoughtcast and passes. Fog untaps, then pays to equip Bruse with O Naginata, then swings him at Edward, taking him out of the game. He then casts Seize the Day to get an additional combat step, and swings Bruse at Justin. Fog then flashes back Seize the Day to take a 3rd combat step, and swings him at Justin for the win. Today's big winner of the channel battle game was yours truly, Fog Raw. He was able to do enough random ally shenanigans to take the win on the back of Bruce's broad shoulders. The MVP of today's game was not only Seize the Day, because extra combat steps are always dangerous, but Kevin and the GMGC for having us come up and represent our channel. Thanks, Kevin, you're a quality guy, and it's always a joy to come play with you and the rest of your crew.
Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.